The wind howled through the dense forest of Sleepy Hollow, carrying with it the murmurs of legends old and new. Nestled in a secluded glen, the village was a place of whispers and wary glances. Few dared to tread the shadowy paths after dusk, for fear of encountering the most infamous specter of them all, the Headless Horseman. Ichabod Crane, a lanky and ambitious schoolmaster, arrived in Sleepy Hollow with little knowledge of the darkness that lingered. His sharp, angular features and bookish demeanor stood out among the hardy villagers. The tales of the horseman, a Hessian soldier decapitated by a cannonball during the Revolutionary War, seemed absurd to him. Yet, he could not deny the shiver that crept down his spine as he strolled beneath the towering oaks, their gnarled branches clawing at the sky like skeletal fingers. The whispers in the village square, and the darting eyes of the townsfolk seemed to follow him everywhere, embedding an uneasy feeling in his mind. Ichabod's new home was a small, creaking schoolhouse on the edge of the woods. By day, he taught the local children their letters and numbers, filling the room with the sound of scratching quills and the occasional burst of laughter. By night, the silence was oppressive, broken only by the distant cries of owls and the rustling of unseen creatures in the underbrush. Despite his skeptical nature, he found himself locking the doors tightly and lighting extra candles, their flickering flames his only companions against the encroaching darkness. Ichabod's evenings were spent courting the favor of the villagers, especially Katrina Van Tassel, the daughter of a wealthy farmer. With her golden hair and lively demeanor, Katrina was the object of many men's affections. Ichabod, however, saw more than beauty. He saw the promise of a prosperous future. Winning Katrina's heart would secure him a place among the region's elite. However, he quickly discovered that Sleepy Hollow's heart beat to the rhythm of its folklore. The villagers spoke in hushed tones of ghostly apparitions and the restless horseman, who rode out nightly in search of his missing head. Ichabod would feign disinterest during these tales, but his imagination often ran wild in the solitude of his quarters, painting vivid pictures of spectral figures and shadowy woods. One chilly evening at the Van Tassel Manor, the villagers gathered for a harvest feast. Tables groaned under the weight of roasted meats, spiced pies, and flowing cider. As shadows danced on the walls, Brom Bones, a brash and burly suitor of Katrina, regaled the crowd with tales of his supposed encounter with the horseman. "He chased me right to the covered bridge," Brom boasted, his voice rich with bravado. "But I was too quick for him, turned tail and vanished like smoke." Ichabod listened intently, his skepticism faltering as the room's atmosphere grew heavy with dread. The villagers' faces, illuminated by the flickering hearth, betrayed their belief in the tale. Despite himself, Ichabod felt a growing unease that lingered long after the evening's revelry ended. The autumn air turned colder as Ichabod's rivalry with Brom intensified. While Brom relied on his physical prowess and charm, Ichabod sought to win Katrina with wit and culture. Yet, his aspirations were not without peril. Sleepy Hollow's nights grew longer, and the stories of the horseman seemed to loom larger, casting a shadow over his dreams. One fateful night, Ichabod lingered at the Van Tassel estate longer than usual. The party's laughter and music faded behind him, as he mounted his borrowed horse, Gunpowder, a plodding and temperamental steed. The moon had sunk low, and the forest was cloaked in darkness. As he ventured deeper into the woods, every rustle and shadow seemed to harbor unseen eyes. The ancient trees, their trunks twisted and gnarled, appeared to lean closer, as if conspiring to ensnare him. Suddenly, a chilling sound cut through the silence, the thunder of hooves. Turning, Ichabod's breath caught in his throat. A towering figure on a midnight black steed emerged, its silhouette illuminated by the pale moonlight. The rider's headless torso clutched a spectral pumpkin, its carved face glowing with an otherworldly light. The horseman's presence was suffocating, a palpable wave of malice that froze Ichabod in place. Panic surged through Ichabod as the horseman spurred his steed forward. Gunpowder's hooves pounded against the dirt path as Ichabod urged the horse to flee. The forest seemed alive, branches grasping at him like the hands of the dead. His heart raced as he approached the covered bridge, the one place said to be beyond the horseman's reach. The chase was relentless. The horseman's steed, impossibly swift, closed the distance with ease. Ichabod could hear the labored breath of his horse, the creak of its saddle, and the unearthly gallop of the spectral rider behind him. He clung to the reins, his knuckles white with fear, as he navigated the twisting path. With a final, desperate sprint, Ichabod crossed the bridge. He dared a glance back, only to see the spectral rider hurl the flaming pumpkin. It exploded in a burst of blinding light, and Ichabod's world went black. The last sound he heard was the horseman's sinister laughter echoing through the night. Morning light revealed an empty saddle, and shattered remains of a pumpkin on the bridge. Ichabod Crane was nowhere to be found. Whispers spread through the village, each tale wilder than the last. Some believed he had fled in terror, while others claimed the horseman had claimed him. Katrina married Brom Bones not long after. Brom's smug demeanor and cryptic comments fueled rumors that he had orchestrated Ichabod's disappearance, perhaps even masquerading as the horseman. Yet, deep in the woods, the horseman's legend only grew. Years passed, and Sleepy Hollow's fear of the horseman persisted. When Jonathan Marsh, a skeptical journalist, arrived in the village, he sought to uncover the truth behind the legend. He dismissed the tales as superstitions, determined to unravel the mystery with reason and logic. Jonathan began his investigation by interviewing the villagers. Their accounts were vivid yet inconsistent, laced with both terror and fascination. He visited the churchyard where the horseman's remains were said to rest and found an eerie stillness that seemed to defy explanation. In the crumbling archives of the village's chapel, Jonathan uncovered records of the Hessian soldier's burial. The documents hinted at an ancient curse, binding the soldier's soul to the earthly realm until his head was reunited with his body. That night, Jonathan's dreams were plagued by visions of galloping hooves and fiery eyes. Determined to prove the legend false, Jonathan ventured into the forest under the full moon. Armed with a lantern and his journal, he retraced Ichabod's final path. As midnight approached, the air grew heavy, and an unnatural silence enveloped the woods. A sudden gust extinguished his lantern, plunging him into darkness. The sound of hooves grew louder, echoing through the trees. Jonathan froze as the spectral figure of the horseman emerged, its eyeless visage turning toward him. Jonathan ran, his heart pounding in rhythm with the thunder of hooves behind him. He reached the covered bridge and threw himself across, collapsing on the other side. When he looked back, the horseman had vanished, leaving only a faint smell of sulfur and the charred remains of a pumpkin. Jonathan's encounter reignited the villagers' terror. Sleepy Hollow descended into paranoia, with curfews and nightly prayers becoming routine. Yet, Jonathan refused to abandon his quest, convinced that the legend held a deeper truth. Seeking answers, Jonathan consulted an elderly villager, rumored to be a descendant of the horseman's comrades. She revealed an ancient ritual said to banish restless spirits. It required confronting the specter at its burial site and performing a binding incantation. On a moonless night, Jonathan gathered the ritual items and ventured to the churchyard. The horseman appeared as if summoned, its presence suffocating and malevolent. Jonathan began the incantation, his voice trembling as the specter loomed closer. The ground trembled, and the horseman's headless form writhed as if caught in an invisible web. With a final, guttural cry, the figure dissolved into the night, leaving the forest eerily still. The villagers awoke to a dawn free of fear. The curse of the horseman seemed broken, and Jonathan's bravery was celebrated. Yet, he remained haunted by the horseman's eyes, or lack thereof, and the sense that something ancient had merely been disturbed, not destroyed. As Jonathan left Sleepy Hollow, he could not shake the feeling of being watched. In the distance, a faint sound of galloping hooves echoed, fading into the mist. The horseman's legend, it seemed, was eternal, a shadow forever tied to the cursed woods of Sleepy Hollow. Thanks for watching. If you loved this video, please give a like and subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon so you never miss any update from us. Share this story with your friends.